Well, hello world. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm just it's first time doing this, so not really sure how this is gonna go. But I've been wanting to create a YouTube channel of me kind of coding different things, and so I finally had an idea for a project and figured I would give it a go. A little bit about me. My name's Steven. I have a master's degree in electrical computer engineering, and I've been, for the past 7 years, a professional software developer. Um, so let's just get started. The idea for the project I had is for a tool that could essentially monitor podcasts. I'm a big fan of listening to podcasts, and I listen to a network of podcasts that uploads their pods to a main network feed as well as to specific channel feeds for all the podcasts that make up the network. Unfortunately, they don't always upload to both of them, and so I have to do the extra work of kind of tracking if I want to listen to all the podcasts, the ones that don't get uploaded on the main feed, and then go back and listening to them. And so if I get behind, it just becomes a sort of hassle. Um, and so the idea behind this project is I'm essentially going to code up a tool in Python that will monitor the RSS feeds for the different podcasts, and then we'll figure out when a podcast is uploaded to the channel feed but not to the entire network feed, and then tweet at that podcast to let them know that their podcast has been uploaded to the network feed. So far, I've done a little bit of kind of quick digging into the various technologies, APIs, and stuff that would be required to do this, and so all of them definitely seem doable, which is why I kind of wanted to start with this project. The components that kind of are going to exist here is, um, you know, grab the data for the different RSS feeds, and then create a component that will essentially read in the RSS feeds and monitor what is going on with them, what new podcasts get uploaded, and then another module that will interact with Twitter and use the Twitter API to essentially tweet out at these podcasts. For this video, I don't want to have things go too long, so I'm going to probably try to stick with videos around 30 minutes to an hour-ish, depending on how much time I have to kind of work on something. And so in this video, it's definitely going to be a lot of the project setup, as well as collecting some of the kind of the feed data. I'm using all kind of free and easy basic technologies, so I'm going to rely on Git, Python, and Visual Studio Code. All of them are free to download and easy to kind of grab a hold of. Right now, as you can see, I have VS Code open as well as a command prompt. So first things first, let's kind of get started creating a project. And so first thing I need to do is set up a folder where I'm going to host the project, and then kind of go in and then set up Git and kind of some basic things that I can kind of use to maintain the project. So first thing I'm going to do, navigate to a base directory where I've kind of been throwing code recently. And I'm going to make a new directory, and I'm going to call it Podcast Monitor. Go into there, and now I've got this empty directory, and I'm going to create a Git, turn it into a Git repository. So now let me go ahead and open up this folder here. So I'm just going to real quick just kind of copy this, navigate over here, and then go to the podcast monitor. All right. So now I've kind of got this basic setup here. I'm going to close out this get started page. And so first things first, if you're not familiar with Git, basic command, git status, see no commits, there's kind of nothing here. For the initial setup of this, I'm going to use a virtual environment, which will allow me to download Python packages that will be specific to this project. This allows the dependencies of the project to be isolated from other projects, and kind of makes it easier to transport things kind of around. So just like I kind of set up Git initially, I'm going to set up the virtual environment. It's just basically this kind of very simple command, this very simple Python command that will set it up. And that should take a second. If you'll notice on the top left, the virtual environment folder has now been created. And this has all now been completed. So just as a quick demonstration of what's going on here. In here we have the virtual environment folder. It's got various kind of scripts and tools and stuff that are used. For the most part, the only kind of interaction that I'm going to be interacting with here is this activate, which enables the virtual environment. First things first, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to enable the virtual environment. So from here, go to the scripts, activate, and then now what you'll notice is this venv here means that I am now in this virtual environment. So now if I want to check what packages are involved, I could type pip freeze, and nothing's been downloaded, nothing's been created. There are no Python packages that currently exist yet. So one thing that's good to do here is to create a requirements file that essentially tracks what different modules I download. And the reason for that is if I want to reset up a project or if someone else wants to set up a project, all they need to do is import that module and then into pip, and they can install everything that they need. So to do that, I'm just going to basically take this output, which is obviously empty as I just showed, and put it into a requirements.txt. I feel like I might spell that wrong. I always, whenever you look at something on a computer, it always is interesting spelling wise. So that's going to be very interesting. That's going to be empty. Now, one thing is that for now, I don't want this venv to really kind of show up. It's not really relevant to the project itself. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a .gitignore file. .gitignore file allows me to ignore any files that I don't want to be that I essentially don't want to be shown. And so I'm just going to create an empty one of those here, and then in this file here I can then add the venv, and I think it's the /. So now if I type git status, it won't populate. So I'm going to keep the gitignore file and the requirements file as a part of this repository, but I'm not going to keep the venv. Now, just to kind of demonstrate what this does here is if I remove this and save this file, and now I check the status, now you'll see that the folder for the virtual environment does exist. This is good, especially for like maybe for resources or config files or things that you don't necessarily want to be included in your kind of Git history. So now I'm going to make the first commit of this kind of setup here. So as the first one, I'm going to do git add and now you'll see that these are staged, and now I'm going to commit them. And I'm just going to say like a knit repo. Alright, so now as you'll see, those are now staged. Any changes that I make, if I click over here, they'll go from green, now there's no changes. If I add another new line here and I save this, you'll see that it now becomes modified. And so from here, one other thing that you can do real quick if you're not familiar with Git is you can actually check out the Git log, and that's the history. And so see here it shows this one commit that I have shows that I authored the commit, when I authored it, and the message that I gave it with. Oftentimes I'll just use this one line, and if you have a bunch of them, you can also go down. So like in this case there's only one, so it's not really useful, but like let's say I had like 50 of them, I could do like -5, and that would just show the first 5 commits, and I'm just like looking at recent things. And this one line allows me to just see this kind of one line entry of it, and allows me to really track the history much easier. So that's kind of the initial setup of what we have going on here. So the next thing I want to start doing is to create the is to grab basically all the links to the RSS feeds that I'm going to be tracking. So as I said, one of the required components for this is to be able to essentially read in the data from the RSS feeds, break it down, and take that information and then use that to tweet out. So that's kind of really the core, the kind of the guts of what's going on here. I found this this website here, Find Podcast RSS Feeds, Katoso, and so basically I searched some of the podcasts earlier, and they all kind of came up here. So I'm going to use this site to basically find all of the links to the RSS feeds. So the first and the main one, so this is the first one, the Le Batard and Friends Network. So let's see, network. What do they actually name it? Le Batard ampersand. There we go. So this is the main podcast network. So in theory, not in practice, everything should be uploaded here. So I'm going to grab this, and I'm actually going to open it up real quick. So basically, the RSS feed here is this is the link to it, and this is the data that comes. So if I were to read this RSS feed, I'm getting what is an XML based information. It has some basic information about the feed itself, some information about the kind of the images and whatnot, and then it has down here in these items, it has the actual podcast. So if you were to actually go onto a podcast app and look up this podcast channel, what you would end up finding is that the most recent episode is this Stupidity episode that they uploaded. And as you can see, here's the actual URL to where their MP3 file this is connected to. So I'm not super familiar with podcast app, but if you were to create your own podcast app, right, you would have to read this in, and then you would be essentially be allowing people to listen to the content that's on this. For the purposes here, I probably only care about this publishing date and the title, and basically using those to decipher which podcast it is, what podcasts are there, and comparing it to the individual channels. All right. So first things first, I'm going to take this. I'm going to take this RSS feed here, and I'm going to create I'm going to put it into a JSON file, So let's just call feeds.json. And so I'm just going to create a a basic JSON representation of what's going on here. Actually, I think so. I want this list, and in this list, create this dictionary, and then so this will be name, and then I want the URL. And format-wise, let's just see how this looks. I feel like I'm gonna keep it kind of formatted like this for now. This is now basically the first entry for the main one. I'm also going to add a type just to make things easier possibly later. And so I'm going to add a type, and the type is going to be main here. So I'm going to call this main, I'm going to call all the other ones sub, and just to add a little bit of kind of genericness to it. So while not necessary, I'm going to commit this for now. So see, now we have the feeds.json. So I'm going to add it in, and then I'm going to commit it, create it, feeds.json. Just something nice and simple there. Alright, so now we got to go ahead and start collecting the other, all the other kind of feeds that we have going on here. So I'm going to grab my podcast app so I can kind of have this list in front of me. Alright, and so Stupidity is going to be one of them. Then we also have Mystery Crate, South Beat Sessions, Cinephile. So it's good. It's kind of nice that these are all kind of here. This is actually interesting. I've never actually seen this one, LAF interviews, because none of these are on the. I don't know if that's an old one or what. Full Cast After Dark. I'm actually not going to open that one just yet because I skipped a few, and I want to make sure I kind of have them all. So I'm just going to grab those for now and then look up some of the others. So some of the others, we have the Podcast with Joe Posnanski and Mike Shore. It's this one. We have Off the Looking Glass. We have Basketball Illuminati. Moco, I don't know if that'll come up if I have to type in Montgomery and Company. Looks like I do. Let me just make sure I spell Mon and Co. Still, what if I get rid of this? Interesting that this one doesn't want to come up for some reason. Might have to come back to this one. Interestingly enough, it's not here. Did I spell Montgomery wrong? Montgomery. I did not. Okay, so I'm gonna have to find that one. Probably somewhere else. But that'll be that can always be like a decent like kind of null check, at least for now, until I'm able to track down somewhere else that actually has it listed. For some reason this one doesn't. What about underdogs? I wonder if some of them are just, I guess, maybe not. full cast. So we have the after dark and the shutdown full cast. Point forward. And then Too Many Men. And then there's DNF and the Cooligans. I actually checked this one earlier, so I know that even though they're listed twice here for some reason, those ones are the same thing are the same. So DNF is also here, and then Cooligans. Alright, so now I've got all these kind of opened up, and I'll basically need to kind of copy them all over into here. So I'm just gonna do a quick copy paste of this, some sub. And then just gonna kind of mass copy paste these. Okay. And so I'm just gonna try to do this as quickly as possible. So I'm just gonna kind of use the various control keys to tab switch. And as long as I at least maintain the order decently. Well, that's interesting that Cinephile is called Cinephile. It looks like the older ones, the ones that originated with ESPN, have the ESP in front of it. It looks like the kind of the newer ones that were created more recently were created using their actual names. So that's kind of an interesting little tweak to it. And then these Levitard ones, so what are these? Shutdown full. It looks like maybe some change. So it looks like they kind of went through a transition of kind of changing the way they kind of title everything. I do know that there was a thing with Cooligans when they switched over to the network. They apparently lost a bunch of their information or something, and that might have to do with one of these transitions here. Not really sure. Okay, so now. Okay, so it looks like the way these are titled actually all have Libertard and Friends in front of them, which is actually good to know in general. So it's Libertard and Friends Network, or then kind of the sub ones. Now, whether it's really required for me to kind of put this here, I'm just going to put it here for now. But that's the type of thing that copy the wrong thing. That could always, it's easy enough to remove programmatically. I kind of now am clicking too much. Okay. So this probably isn't going to be the most exciting first episode, since I'm not necessarily doing a bunch of coding. Part of it was also to kind of get things off the ground in a way. And part of it is also in a way a test for the what the audio is going to sound like, and getting a live stream going. All this is kind of new to me. All the actual kind of creation of this, which is why I'm going to say almost no one is listening. Well, we have 2 views, so 1 concurrent viewer though. So I feel like that's the same person. DNF. Okay, so that's all of these kind of main ones, and so what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So we have 15, and not including, so there's 14, and then how many sub-podcasts are actually in a network? Got 5, 10, 15, 16. So I'm missing 2, which makes sense because I couldn't find Montgomery and Company or Underdogs. Yes, I think null is the right usage in JSON. And so I'm just going to kind of copy these over real quick. I might do a quick cursory search of, see if I can find them maybe somewhere else. Maybe if I just like kind of Google it, come up. So I'm just going to put those in for now. And then Underdogs. Okay. And then I need to remove this last letter. Alright, so now we have an edited file. And then it's been modified. And just looking at a quick diff, right? It's just all these additions that we added. So that's kind of just everything that was now added in. So I'm just going to say, I'm just going to put in filled in RSS data. Alright. So let me just check real quick on my podcast app that I use. I wonder if it's listed, they're listed under different names because the name for Montgomery and Company used to be different. So I wonder if I search remotely Renee, if that will come up. No. Alright. Let's see if I can like check it here, if it'll come up. RSSD. No, none of that really looks right. What about Underdogs? Now, these are honestly less of an issue because the producers of these two podcasts are better at actually uploading it. So most of the time, these are always up there. So yeah, I'm not getting, not really getting this here, so that's fine. Okay, so let's see. Been recording for about almost 30 minutes here, and so I don't know if I want to get too much into starting some kind of actual coding for this. So I might just kind of outline, I guess, what'll be in the kind of next video, and then wrap it up. I think that'll be at least a decent first episode, hopefully. I'm sure anyone who, if anyone ends up watching this, it's because at least you've watched all the other ones anyway. So you're just going back to the initial video to see what happened. So basically now the next steps are going to be to actually read in this the data here, right? So if I I'm checking this XML file, all right, if I read this data, I'm going to get back this XML, and I'm just going to want to kind of chunk it up on this item level here and kind of grab these items and just kind of get a list of these podcasts and maybe some basic information, figure out kind of what's the easiest way to compare it. I mean, honestly, it might be fairly easy to just, because I'm sure they use the same MP3. So in that case, it should be probably fairly easy for me to just compare that. Can also do a comparison of the title, which they're going to be like slightly different. So as like an example, I know, right, so Stupidity was one that was actually updated. So if I look on the main feed, right, the most recent episode here is this Stupidity episode. And if I look on the Stupidity feed, the most recent episode has the same name, but it is edited slightly. So, right, while that's certainly comparable, yeah, it might be easier to compare these. So if I'm looking at this, actually these, yeah, no, these look the same. They're just slightly off. Actually, they're not the same. This one has this little extra chunk in the middle for some reason, which makes sense because I have noticed that on the kind of the feeds there are some slight differences with stuff. And I don't really know how any of that works. I wonder if I can just go to this. Let's see what happens.
Mom,
Oh, so that's like the actual like audio. So honestly, in the end, if no one answers my tweets, I can just create my own podcast app, I guess. So yeah, that's gonna kind of wrap it up for this kind of first episode. Next time, what I'm gonna go into is I'm gonna start writing some Python code. I'm going to essentially Python has the JSON module kind of just built right into it, so I'll easily be able to kind of read this in. And then I'm sure I haven't used an XML module in Python, but I'm sure there's an easy to use XML module. So probably just be kind of creating some code that will use those modules to read in this JSON, make a web request, and then read in the XML, and maybe just do the most like basic manipulation of it to kind of get a list of the pods that they've been putting up. And then so after that, that'll probably be next time. After that, then we'll just be doing a comparison of them, and then we'll kind of get into creating like the Twitter portion of it. That will actually like formulate a Twitter message, figure out who's slacking off, and let them know about it. So that's going to be all. I hope if you anyone ends up coming back and watching this, that you're finding the content of me coding interesting. So, see you.